Easy come, easy go. Give it to you, take it away.
All right, everybody, looks like we're ready to go. Welcome, everybody, and to tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting. This is July 12th, 2022, so we'll get right into it and call this meeting to order. And the first order of business is to adopt the agenda, or if there are any changes suggested, please say so. If none, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Very good. Motion's up to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All the way around. Thank you. We're in. All right, if you would then please join me in standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence after.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right, as I understand, there are no general public comments and nobody signed up to speak in the back, so we're going to move down to the consent agenda. If I have a motion on that, please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Great, motion's up all the way around. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. Move on to that. We jump right down to recognition. So since all you guys are up here before, we can start again. First one is Mr. Todd Matthews. Todd, you're up first. Very good.
I'm here to recognize Tony Helms for 20 years of service. I hired Tony 2002, July the 1st. You were 18, right? Like I was hiring one of my kids. But we've been through a lot together. Tony's designed the Dare Steel Garden. He's run the camera crew, surveying, inspecting pipe and stuff. Street inspections. He helped all the parking stops we have downtown. Tony make sure they put in right, lined up right. When we was doing the sidewalk from the mill to the bridge, Tony found a bunch of errors and had them corrected in the field. But really didn't miss a beat. But there's a lot that people don't know about Tony though. Back in the day, people would come to Tony and get him to read the letters that they wrote. He was spell checking for them. And, I used to try to get him to do the spelling bee that the county and the city used to have, and he wouldn't do it because he's won a few spelling bee competitions. But Tony, he's been a real good hire. I mean, he's stepped up to the game and really makes the town look good. And I appreciate his hard work and giving him a 20-year plaque. I appreciate it, Tony.
Thanks, sir.
One little side note that he don't want me to mention, but
Don't run now.
on the side, Tony can do about anything he puts his mind to. I mean, you tell him to do something, he figures it out. And he does blacksmithing. This was probably either a railroad spike or a lawnmower blade. And he made a hook out of it, which he makes knives, mauls, all kind of stuff. So if you want to see him do some work, come down to the mule barn. He works down there one Saturday a month and does blacksmithing. He's real good at it. You ought to check it out. He does real good.
Very good. Tony, thank you for being here, taking care of us for all this time. You can have the mic if you'd like.
I appreciate it. I just I appreciate y'all being a good town to work for. Commissioners, giving employees good benefits. As big as Waxhaw's gotten, it still has that small town feel. And I enjoy working for the Town of Waxhaw. Thank y'all.
All right, congratulations. All right, next one up, another presenter. We have Rosie. Oh boy. So we have the introduction of, it says newest employee, but there's a few of us, so
He's pretty
new
new.
employee. How's that?
So, hi everybody. So I'm here to introduce Michael Ambrose. He's a new addition to the finance staff as our staff accountant, and he comes to us from Easley, South Carolina. And we're we're happy to have him. Come on.
Go ahead and embarrass him, it's okay.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to work here. Waxhaw seems like a great place to be. Everybody's been welcome, open arms. That guy's still smiling after 20 years, so it must be a great thing to do. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, welcome to the team. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you, Rosie, for putting that together. Miss Dina, your turn.
Evening. I actually have a slide.
Of course you do.
Well, there we go.
Oh, I thought we were it, so.
It's all good. I would like to introduce Mr. Michael here. He is our new addition to the Park and Rec team. He comes from Rock Hill, and he is a recent graduate of Clemson University. He is our new program and events specialist, so he's going to be helping out both those smaller departments within the department. And we've been a joy to have him so far. We really threw him in the deep end. He started on July 1st, and he had just jamming and then parade on Monday. So he's still smiling, and so he's still here with us, and we're really appreciative to have him.
That's very good. Welcome.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to work with Waxhaw. Y'all have been awesome. Everybody's been so nice to me, and I feel very welcome, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you all.
Awesome. Well, welcome to join the team. All right, more. Mr. Falconberry, Matt, come on up.
Not used to being on this side of it. Board, Mayor, here to present our system support engineer, Joe Aldinger, the newest employee to IT. Of course, we're excited to have him. Glad he's here. He comes to us with about six plus years of background at Movement Mortgage and Bank of America. So we're glad to have him, mostly because we pretty much showed him everything, how to run this meeting, and he'll be doing the next one by himself.
Well, welcome. Appreciate that.
Yeah, they get to play hooky next time.
They're going to choose to.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Joe. Everyone has been super nice so far. Well, also, first, glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I felt really trapped in my last job, so coming here, it's a nice breath of fresh air. Everyone's been really nice, except for him and Nick behind the camera. I'm watching you. But yeah, it's just been great. So glad to be here.
That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're building and we're growing. All right. Next, we'll drop all the way down. There's no presentations tonight, no public hearings tonight, so we're going to step into old business, and Barbie is going to handle that from where she sits.
Thank you, Mayor. On February the 22nd, the board adopted a resolution that authorized the reinstatement of the Organization Advisory Board. And by consensus, during their 2x2 meetings, they voted to allow the chairs, the vice chair, or designee to fill those slots for the OAB. Tonight, we are here to ask the board for consideration of appointing a chair, a vice chair, or a designee from the 5 active boards, which is the ABC Board, the Historic Preservation Board, the Main Street Advisory Board, Planning Board, and Parks, Cultural, and Recreation. And the chair for the ABC Board that is up for possible appointment is Anthiosis.
It's a tough
What he said.
Athanasios.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And from HPC, a designee, Terry Settle, and the MSAB Vice Chair, Kate Stallman, and the Planning Board Vice Chair, Deborah LeMay, and the Parks PCR Chair, Michael Evola. Those are up for appointment and consideration.
All right, well, we've gone down a long road with this over the last couple of years, so we want to kind of bring this to conclusion. Before we go into any more, I'd like to entertain any discussion on it.
So, the policy that we passed, I believe we would have to amend the policy to appoint a designee. Is that correct, Charlie, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I know we had a lot of discussion before that when we did the policy that we felt the chair and vice chair should be the representative on the OAB. And so right now, one of these is a designee, so our very first time out of the gate, we're having a designee. And do we know why the HPC chair or vice chair aren't able to fulfill that position?
Yes, ma'am. The chair was non-responsive when the staff liaison reached out to her, and the vice chair is up for reappointment, which makes him ineligible to serve on the OAB. So if you remember with that discussion, you asked for us to include a designee in case that should arise, and we updated the rules of procedure for that, for that instance. And that was back on February the 22nd is when we had that discussion, and you decided to allow a designee if something arose and someone was not able to serve. And so we have that with HPC, and we're asking that you allow the designee, Terry Settle, to serve in that capacity.
I don't remember the discussion that way.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, when we talk about if there was a non-response from a person on there, do we know why? Have we vetted that down the line a little bit? Or
No, sir. There's
willing?
been numerous phone calls, numerous of emails, and she doesn't seem to respond.
All right, well, that's not a good sign. So I guess the other part of the discussion, it would be if we're going to have that kind of an issue to deal with, then we would then reselect somebody else to be the chair at this point. I think we can probably make that happen. So what's your thoughts?
You're going down the same exact path I was. Yeah. I think we're a historic town. The HPC chair should probably be responsive to you.
Correct.
Charlie, can we make that on the fly?
I would think so, yes, sir.
All right. So what I'll do in this, go ahead, Tracy.
So are we suggesting that Terry Settle be appointed to chair or vice chair of the
I think that would
HPC?
be
And
up to
should
a
we?
motion to do, and if we want to do that,
Well, would it be appropriate to perhaps push this to the next meeting and ask Terry if he's willing to?
She's in the audience.
to-
She's in the audience
with
if
us.
you'd like
So
to.
Yes, can
ask her.
we
we can
address?
get an affirmative nod. That's why I asked Charlie about doing this on the fly, so.
I just have not a question, but if we follow the rules of procedure, I believe it's the board that particular board would nominate and appoint who their leadership would be. So I know we certainly have that ability to do as the board, but I think it'd be better to be a board of their peers to nominate who they believe should be chair or vice chair.
Okay, so if we go down that road, then if we had a motion on this stuff, we exclude that particular position until a later date, and then have the
Do it at the next
board
one, I
itself
suppose.
make their choice and then come back to us if we want to move forward. I don't see there's any reason to delay the others,
Mhm.
if that's the case. So
I agree.
if we have consensus on that,
Yeah.
then I'd look for a motion.
I'm fine with the slate that's presented, because I know we did have a discussion about a designee if someone couldn't fulfill that for whatever their reason, if they were sick, or if they had, like, if somebody had a life-threatening illness or was going through some sort of treatment and couldn't fulfill that role, that we would allow a designee. So I'm fine with doing it either way. I just think that I'm also fine with what's presented.
So I think about our history here, and when Ron and I were running the OAB in the interim, and it was the chairs that always met with us. They interviewed the candidates, they presented their choices. So it seems that that should continue as far as serving on the OAB, and I think this is a very simple thing. For us to ask that a chair and vice chair be on the OAB. And so and that needs to be a requirement for those positions when they are appointed on their boards. And so I don't think that it should even be a designee. When you think about the corporate world, I mean, it's the managers, the leaders who hire. And so it should be the same here. And if they can't fulfill that duty, then they shouldn't be in the position.
If we're going to, again, follow protocol and procedure on it, if we choose to do it this way, we can hold off the HPC until the HPC can meet and confirm their choice. If we want to, we can go forward with the ones that we have today with the exception of that. And then at a later time, whenever that is, we can then reaffirm the HPC chair. Does that work for everybody? So put up the motion again. You want to put it up that way?
Just thinking about how to word it. Motion to appoint the chair and vice chair of the ABC Board, MSAB vice chair, PB vice chair, PCR, let's see, chair. I just lost it all. As the new members of the Organization Advisory Board.
Okay, very good. That should be simple enough. We know we have to return to it. So any further discussion on it? All right, motion's up. All in favor?
Aye.
I like to hold you guys out a little bit. All right, all the way around, we're good. All right, so we'll deal with the HPC procedurally next time we meet, or if not before. So, very good, and congratulations to all those that serve, and thank you for serving on these boards for us. It actually is a very important piece, and we want to make sure everybody is engaged. So, all right, Barbie, thank you on that, and Commissioner, we'll go drop down to new business. It's kind of not really a new business, but it is. It's been a long time trying to resolve some of this, so I think we have Mr. Blair coming up, so you're up, Blair.
Yeah, it's not new at all, but it's my privilege to present this tonight because I think it's pretty exciting, actually. Subject matter is pedestrian bridge and the maintenance easement acquisition. So let's move on to the next slide. Whenever you're ready. Oh, I am in control.
Oh, my.
Okay. Boy, that's a lot of power to give to me. So I have here titled the Overhead Bridge because the bridge is traditionally known as that. It is one of Waxhaw's 4 designated historic landmarks, and so it is known as the Overhead Bridge in our historic landmark standards. This one, though, is the only one to occupy the town's official seal. I think we all know how important this bridge is, both practically and symbolically, to the town. It was originally constructed in 1888. Back then, as many of you know, it was a vehicular bridge. But it continues to serve this day as a very, very important pedestrian connection across the corridor. People use it all the time for very practical reasons. But of course, its importance goes beyond that because it's such an iconic symbol of the town. So enough history. Now to get to recent history. Going back to just spring of last year, the town staff determined that alterations to the overhead bridge were necessary And this was in coordination to work that was being done under the TAP grant for improvements along North Main and also along Highway 75 on the north side, the extension of the sidewalk to the mill. And so what was determined was that the stairs as they are currently needed some alteration, really for two reasons. One was for safety and just accessibility, because they're very steep steps. But I think what was even more of a catalyst for this was that the way the sidewalks were working along the south side, it was better to have the steps go down the other direction. So anyway, that's what led to our question of, hey, can we just do this? And the question, of course, was presented to the HPC because it is a landmark, and the HPC made its determination when we sought a certificate of appropriateness for the change. They said it was fine, but we knew that they weren't the only ones we needed to satisfy. There was also CSX. And as we looked into the paperwork, as we looked into whatever was out there to determine, okay, do we have the right to just go ahead and do this? We found that the paperwork was very lacking and confused and just not definitive enough for us to be comfortable with making those changes. So we reached out to CSX, and we wanted to better document or nail down exactly, who has rights to this bridge, who has the legal ownership and such. And again, it was just very murky. So we, in conjunction with them, in coordination with them, we had a survey done. This was authorized by the town to legally describe what was at stake here. It wasn't so much the bridge that was the complicated thing, but the easement for both traveling across it, for occupying it, in other words, and also for doing maintenance work on it. So that easement was really the tricky thing that we had to work out, and that's why something that started last spring isn't just now concluding. It was really working out that easement. But an easement agreement has now been approved by both the town and CSX. So I just want to say that, after all the work in reaching this agreement with CSX and considering the importance of this iconic landmark, I'm excited to present this motion to the board. And that's the motion to approve the acquisition of the pedestrian bridge for the town of Waxhaw and authorize the town manager to execute the bill of sale. So that's the motion.
Okay. It's a long history on that.
I really shortened it. It's
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And Mayor, if I can add to it, and that'll be your first motion. We're splitting up into two motions at the request of the attorney. And just to let you know, on the financial side of things, the bill of sale was negotiated to $1, which is great. And then we will expend that $1 out of our downtown department budget. And then the deed of easement, the request is $4,500. That was not unexpected, as we've all worked through, and then that was included in our budget this year, and that will also be drawn from the downtown department.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I found that the least expensive way to definitely establish who owns something is to buy it, especially when you can get it for $1. So that's what we've done.
Long time coming, and a lot of cleaning up of a lot of loose ends. So kudos to you guys for doing, that's a lot of research, a lot of work, and like I say, it goes back to 1888 and then some, so appreciate that.
There's a lot of thank yous really to say in this. Matt had a lot of correspondence with CSX, and Lisa Thompson, our Planning and Inspections Director, had a lot of correspondence with CSX. Todd Matthews had correspondence, but wanted to give the glory to Blair tonight because he had the initial contact with somebody as we were working through this, and he was able to build that relationship, and this is where we got to the final stage of. And then of course Charlie was involved a lot along the way as well, and everybody knows the time, effort, and energy it takes to work with them, but we're happy to say that it does take time, but it can work.
133 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So, give or take, something, whatever. All right, well, thank you for that. All right, so what we're looking for is a motion to spend $1, right? So however you want to frame it. So
I'll make a motion to approve the acquisition of the pedestrian bridge for the town of Waxhaw and authorize the town manager to execute the bill of sale.
all right, All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's up, great. One down. You're up again.
Okay, I'm up again. Next slide. This is the motion to approve the acquisition of the pedestrian bridge maintenance easement for the town and authorize the town manager to execute that deed of easement. And Jeff has already mentioned what the cost of that easement would be. Again, I appreciate Jeff pointing out everybody who's involved, but if I'd have brought my email train, I think it would have been about this thick in communication with them. So I'm very happy that we have reached this agreement with them.
That's great. Any questions by anybody on this part of it? It's just tying up, again, some loose ends. So I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the acquisition of the pedestrian bridge maintenance easement for the town of Waxhaw and authorize the town manager to execute the bill of sale.
Very good,
Deed
thank
of
you.
easement.
Deed of easement, correction.
There you go. All right, motion's up for that. All in favor?
Aye.
All around, great. All right, congratulations. We own a bridge. Remember, Pedro? We own it. All right, very good.
The critical
Thanks,
thing
Blair,
on
and
that
thanks,
easement,
everybody.
Mayor, the critical thing on that easement is now it gets to stay there. They can't tell you to move it. You know, we buy it, say, okay, it's yours, put it over here. Now the easement gives it the right to stay there, not only to maintain it, but to stay in that location.
And that was a
So
reason for splitting.
That's a permanent easement.
Yeah, that's exactly right, finally. So, no, a lot of work, a lot of detail. All right, well, thank you again, everybody, on that effort. Now we'll drop down to town leadership reports. Town Manager Jeffrey Wells, you have some good news to share with us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Some big news out of Raleigh this week, certainly specific to Waxhaw, among other things, but Governor Cooper signed the short session budget late yesterday afternoon, and what comes with that for many municipalities, but specific to Waxhaw, is a $600,000 appropriation from the state capital and infrastructure fund. It will be in the form of grant. That's basically how they arranged all of that through that funding. So it's not specific to any one project or any one piece of equipment. It states that it will be towards capital improvements or equipment. So it will be up to us to decide how we want to spend that money, and that will be an upcoming discussion in the near future that we can work through. Big thank yous are in order, and we'll just continue to foster and nourish those relationships that we've made. Senator Todd Johnson, Representatives Dean Arp, David Willis, and Mark Brody, just all integral in helping us to receive those funds. I've had the pleasure of talking personally to each of them over the last few weeks and months, and each of them are great to talk to and great to deal with, and so just really happy, really proud. It's a proud moment, I think, for Waxhaw and building our relationships with those folks, and we continue to look forward to doing that. Special thank you to our state lobbyist, Deborah Conrad. Perfect timing to bring her aboard right when they were working through this short session budget. The stars aligned, of course. The governor signed it, and then we'll look forward to planning on what we can do in the long session budget coming up in 2023. So we'll have some strategy sessions about how we work towards continuing on and seeing what other opportunities we have out there. She did tell me that it doesn't necessarily stop here. There are some opportunities that were approved in the short session budget for things like electric vehicle charging stations, some other things that we might be able to go for out of that. So we'll work and foster that and see what opportunities lie ahead. But again, just can't thank our state legislators enough for their generosity, and also our state lobbyists for advocating for us.
It's a great moment for the town. Again, nurturing and developing those relationships, being prepared, being cooperative. I've got a lot of good comments from them on how cooperative our entire town was, staff and everybody involved in it, to make this happen for us. So we certainly look for this to continue. I think between just two of them, we've gotten over $1 million in either grants or awards between the park and now this one. So we certainly hope to further that. everything that we can do, all of us, at any point in time, make sure we reach out to our elected officials and tell them thanks. So as we will be formally as well. So appreciate that.
And one more thing the governor did yesterday is he announced that the state of emergency will expire on August 15th. So, and I gave Charlie a little bit of warning yesterday that he might want to take a moment just to explain to us how that will work for meetings moving forward. So.
The entire authority to have virtual meetings is under a declaration of emergency. The prior statute was under declarations of emergency coming from the governor and or the General Assembly. It was the only time you could have virtual meetings. We got legislation last summer and we sought it as a local legislation, but it went statewide in the General Assembly that allows it under any declaration of emergency, so that if you have a local declaration of emergency, such as a bad train wreck with hazardous materials or something, and you needed to have a meeting, but you need to have it virtually, as long as it's a declaration of emergency in place in your community, you can have a virtual. It's not linked to the governor or to the General Assembly. Now, what does it mean by this declaration of emergency being lifted? It means no more virtual meetings. For this board or for any of your boards, they have to meet in person now. That means that all of the meetings, the comments, everything will have to be in the meeting. The next question, though, that's going to ask me is, well, what about if someone has to, for whatever reason, wants to attend a board meeting but can't be here in person but can virtually? That'll be strictly up to the board and your rules of procedure on whether you will allow a member to attend virtually for good cause or not. But I'm of the opinion that notwithstanding allowing someone to attend, you still would have to have physically present in the boardroom at a board meeting, a majority quorum present in the board meeting, so that you wouldn't have two members in the board meeting physically present and then others, the rest of you all in a virtual state. So I think that the board can allow one or two of you to be attending virtually, but virtual meetings in and of themselves are no longer going to be allowed once that goes out. So everything is going to be back to, we always want the old days. Well, the old days is coming up August 16th. So,
So we'd have to amend our rules and procedures if we wanted to.
if you wanted to.
Build in that flexibility by special circumstance or choice if we wanted to. Is that correct?
Yes.
We already have that in our rules of procedure.
It's still, okay, it's there. Okay. And formally, would then I have to release that state of emergency as mayor because we had one that's standing now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we're linked to the governors. If you had a Department of Health, local Department of Health in Waxhaw, where they had statistics and evidence to show the nature of the emergency being in Waxhaw, you could make it continue here.
Mm.
But we don't have, as they say, a rational nexus for a state of emergency in Waxhaw because we have no evidence why it should be a state of emergency in Waxhaw.
So we will then start to craft that to coincide with this end date then, if we can do that? Okay, so we'll do that going forward. Does everybody agree with that consensus all around? All right. Well, it is a little bit joyful, I guess you want to say, that we'll all be here again. We can see each other every meeting. So I for one, will enjoy being in person. So thanks for that update on that.
I think COVID will be around, but I think what we're seeing now is, well, the war is over, we won, and move on.
It's moving on, and then we're going to keep growing forward, so that will do. All right. Matt or Jeff, I think one of the two of you were going to present the next step. Matt, you had an update for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a few little items. Just a personal history on the CSX items. When I first got here and started coordinating with them, I was skinny and had blonde hair. And that ship has sailed. This weekend is Jamming at the Tracks on Friday, and I will be representing the town at the public engagement for TAP. And I'm also excited to say that the band is called the King Bees, and they are a husband and wife blues band that I've been following since the previous millennium. And so if you're around in town, I highly recommend you come down. You will see some really terrible dancing. I'm a lot older than I was when I met them, but I still get down to them because they are great. And they're bringing a special guest, probably a local blues artist that's probably going to be amazing. Typically is their MO. They usually back up some really great talent. And then the other item is the TAP grant. The bridge is actually going to be started to get work on. The northern steps are going to get replaced starting the end of next week and finish up the following week, again, weather permitting. We did want to make sure they didn't interrupt the 4th of July, and so we were erred on the side of caution and postponed that work, but it will get started at the end of next week.
That's great. Good to hear. Like to see all that get going. And are we on target for the start of the East-North Main improvement?
We are not. We're still waiting for, Union County had to last minute drop a water line into the project, which was unfortunate, but we've got all the design work done. We're waiting on encroachment from DOT to move that forward. So that's in process. It shouldn't be that much further along, and then we'll be able to bid that out.
Any timeframes you're thinking of right now?
No, because we're still going to have to, once that's done, go to the Board of Transportation, and that's going to take a month. So we're at least, let's say, 2 months out.
Okay. All right. It's the expectation. I know a lot of our business owners down there are curious as well. So.
Yeah, and they've been kind of praying it would happen closer to Christmas, so I think their wish may come true.
It may come true. That's exactly
I think
right.
we're very lucky, though, that Union County approached us and said, hey, they want to do this, because we could have
Put it all in.
done the project,
Right.
and then they could have come back through and opened it back up at some point after it was fresh and new. And I think what we've also talked about, too, as we move forward is that that we would manage that, and then they would just reimburse us that. That's something we've been working on with them, just so we're not having two project managers
Operations.
and
Yeah,
operations.
we'll be bringing forward a local agreement for that when the numbers are in.
Where's the line going to be?
Right in front, they're just replacing what's already there in
It's already there.
East
At
North Main.
curb's edge, probably? Is it in the pavement?
It'll be under the pavement, yeah.
It'll be in-
And they'll have to cross 16, and that's one item of contention with DOT. We were going to open cut it because we're going to pave it anyway, and DOT is saying we're going to have to bore it because the open cut's going to be too intrusive, and they're still working that out.
And who knows what we might find underneath that street, right?
Yeah, we'll bring up some artifacts, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. All right, very good. Anything else on that?
That's it.
Jeff, town manager, anything more to add to that?
No, sir.
Matt, thank you very much, and I know it's a lot of effort, and you're right. I mean, you probably were thinner and had blonde hair, and it's been a long time coming, I know. I'm not even going there. I love it. All right, Miss Dina, you're up next. Parks and Rec. Tell us what's happening.
Well, we have some really cool programs happening this week and this weekend. Fun Cooks with Little Books, so the way around, is actually a partnership with the library, and that is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at the McDonald House. We have Hero tomorrow at Town Creek at 9:30, and then Jammin'. Matt's already give you a heads up with his favorite band coming on Friday at 7. Bingo, Senior Coffee Hour Bingo is next Thursday, the 21st, 10 a.m. That's very popular. And then we also have mixology on Monday, and then we have a new mini camp for soccer for our little kids coming up in the 26th of July. This weekend, also, we have Waxhaw Serve Day. We are in partnership with Miss Yolanda, which is awesome, and we're helping out that on Saturday from 10 to 12 at Forest Hill Church. And of course, please remember to look at your program guide online and on Facebook for all the upcoming programs. Any questions?
Well, you're well into summer swing right now, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
That's great. Now, a lot of activity, and yeah, if somebody could make it out to all these this weekend, that'd be great. It is great to be visible. I try to, when I can, attend a lot of these things, and just to being able to interact with our constituents out there really gives them a lot of understanding of what we go through and a lot of confidence. So if at all possible, please attend that. That'd be great and support. So, Ms. Dina, we're working with you.
Awesome, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, any other comments for the good of the group, Board of Commissioners? Anybody? Charlie, you're good?
Well, I just had a thought that about the ABC board. With the loss of the declaration of the state of emergency, a lot of the rules of the ABC system will now go back to what they were, that were lenient during COVID to allow various bars and restaurants to have outside and whatever. So we need to pay attention. I have no idea what that's going to be, but I just wanted to throw that on the table, that we need to pay attention to that so that we don't have our local businesses suddenly get in trouble with the chief when he goes out and arrests them, because ABC systems are now no longer allowed to have those outside open drinks and things. So we need to pay attention to that. Just happen to think about that. So I think for our citizens and for our businesses who have been so impacted by COVID, that we need to work with them now in reverse, not only to give them the leniency, but now we need to make sure that they are going to be in compliance with whatever those AB systems
Okay,
will be.
something to be mindful of.
Yes.
I know Chief has his handfuls with that all the time anyway, so. Chief, you're in the room. You want the microphone for a little while? Anything you want to bring forward for us? Yes, I love putting you on the spot. Any questions for the chief? I mean, we've got a lot of good comments again coming from everybody that I talked to about the town and, you know, how we serve the town and our residents. And so, you know, job well done, certainly that.
Starting next week, I'll start bringing a report to you on various aspects with community policing and then some of the things that we do, some of the things, the good, bad, and the ugly that we're dealing with. In that, we won't discuss any open cases, but I will present to you some of the stuff that we're doing and anticipating and doing. And then if you got any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer that. Right now, until we get to where we're going to do the social districting, it's easy to maintain. If we start heading in that direction, then obviously we got to sit and see what kind of manpower it will take to be able to handle that. So I don't anticipate that happening right away unless you know something different than I do. But we certainly, when we start heading that direction, we can be prepared to try and handle that as well. So
Very good. Questions, comments? You having one?
Chief, I know you and I have talked. I know other communities are doing National Night Out at the beginning of August. I know you and I talked. Just for the citizens that may be watching this, do you want to maybe give them an idea what we are planning on doing for a town?
A lot of the towns here in Union County, us, Monroe, and several others, are branching on what we're always in competition with the opening of school that week, and kids having to go to parent teachers and everything, and it's so hot that a lot of people complain about coming out at that time. So we're going to move it to October and do it then, and hopefully we'll get some better participation in that, and we're going to start recruiting some of the neighborhoods to try and. I want more than just the usual neighborhoods that are getting involved in this, and so we're going to start working on that. So that October is when we're going to do that.
Great. I just wanted to reassure the citizens that we are going to do it, and it's just we're just moving it to a
And
different
we'll go
time.
to the different neighborhoods. There was some talk, a lot of departments are going back to just having it at their local department and everybody come here. For now, I think we're going to keep going to the different neighborhoods, and I think it will help us fellowship, if you will, with the different people in those neighborhoods. And it gets me more cake and ice cream, so there's always a plus for that. So.
5 different parties. That's great. Or more, right, exactly.
Also, I'm assuming you know, but the nuisance and abatement on Rehoboth Road went very well. It's pretty much a done deal now. We're just in the process of working with the owner and what he's supposed to do with the property. But the individual that was there committing all those crimes is gone, He's not gone from town, but he's gone from that neighborhood, and that's a big win for the town. It's a big win for that neighborhood who doesn't have to see that blight across the street from them. I can't imagine having to live with that. So that's complete and done. We made some friends there, made some enemies there, but that's okay. Reference to what we talked about this weekend, they went out there, and to my knowledge, everything's good.
And some of our citizens, of course, you see it all out on social media or just conversations in the restaurants or anywhere downtown, aren't really sure of what happened there and what the procedures are. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
We put a press release out on all our social media. So nuisance and abatement is something that takes a long time to accomplish. And you have to have a lot of paperwork, i.e. police reports, complaints pertaining to that particular residence or business even. And so we had been working on that. It was a known drug house. There was a lot of violent activity that was there, and those are some of the requirements for this to happen. And we've been dealing with this individual for a while, and we ended up getting up with ALE, and we finally got to the point where they said we had enough to be able to do that. Went through the process, worked with Charlie on that as well as ALE. I think some of y'all had to sign statements of what you saw and what you had heard. The neighborhood got involved, signed affidavits on that as well. And we were able to come together as a community to get rid of a known drug house and a place where a lot of junk, it just looked really, really blithe over there. I wouldn't want to have to live across the street. And one of our own town employees lived across the street, had to see it every day. The neighborhood was afraid of this individual. Back, I think 2005, we had one of the major incidents was we had pit bulls kill a 5-year-old girl. And so it just continually got worse and worse after that. Continued to let those dogs run wild. Animal control dealt with them numerous times. The drug unit dealt with them numerous times. Patrols dealt with them numerous times. So pat yourselves on the back. That was a good victory for us. That was something good that the town did, and I know there's a lot of residents that are very happy now as a result of that. So.
And just for some further clarification for the audiences that are listening to us as well, so it was, we'll call it a tenant that was in that residence
Yes.
causing this. The owner retained ownership of the property, but now he has to make corrections, is that correct?
He has to sell the property.
He's forced to sell it,
Yes.
okay.
Which I think is what he wanted to do to begin with anyway. I think he was actually afraid of him as well. So
That's sad.
I think it's a big win for us.
I think so too, and good job for you and
Unfortunately,
everybody
we're
else.
still going to have to deal with him because he's still in the area, but
Still in
at
the
least
area.
it's out of that neighborhood. So.
Okay. All right. Charlie?
Since we want to inform the citizens, let me just add to what the chief has said, and what I hear you say without you realizing what you said. What I am saying now is this was a state statute. It's not the local ordinance. This is a state statute. The caption of the lawsuit is the state of North Carolina in relation to the town of Waxhaw. ALE was the driving factor here. But what the nuisance is under the state statute, Article 19 is what it's called, and it's to protect towns when their police departments are having to spend so much time, energy, and personnel and attention to a single area. Instead of being able to patrol the entire town, they're spending so much time enforcing the law with a single, and in this case, a single lot, where you have multiple criminal activities that are going on, and it's a repetitive nature. And our police department has to spend so much time that this statute recognizes that being a nuisance. And it calls for complete abatement. The person who is probably the happiest of this, other than the neighborhood, are the owners. Because now they get to restore their life and will ultimately sell the property and its two owners, and they will be able to share equally in their sales proceeds, which I think they literally were scared to death.
Yeah,
They were relieved.
I want it clear that there are so many fail-safes in this. We can't just go and take somebody's property.
Right.
And I want the public to know that. There is a lot of requirements that led up to this, that we had to meet those thresholds to be able to do that. And it wasn't just us. It's important to know that when this is being done, ALE has to be involved by state statute. So it's an outside agency working with local agency, working with the neighborhood. And there's a lot of detail that has to go into that. So it's not just us going and just taking somebody's properties. That's not at all what happened. So,
And that's what I wanted the public to understand and hear from both of you guys. For one, there's just a lot of speculation out there all the time, questions asked, probably answered incorrectly, and so thanks for
yeah, I
saying
think
that.
so far, we've got nothing but a positive response out of that, so.
Right. Very good. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, all the way around? Chief, good to see you here tonight.
All right, see you next week.
Appreciate that. All right, unless there's any other comments by the Board of Commissioners, there's nothing on closed session for us tonight, so all you guys race up to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Who's got it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. It's a wrap. Thank you.